Hello and welcome to this video on the topic Big Trends in Food Industry. It is a part of Consumer Behavior chapter. Why should we talk about food? Well, there are essentially two reasons. Number one, because food is essential for our health, and health usually would come up as the main factor of the overall well-being that has most importance to people. And number two, it's essential for our economy, right? To make a progress, to grow the value of economy and so forth. So let's start with the first one. It's essential for health. Hippocrates, you might have heard of him, was a Greek physician of the age of Pericles, who is considered to be one of the most outstanding figures in the history of the medicine. He is reported to have said famously that all disease begins in the gut. That's how important the gut is. And basically, the gut system, in other words, the gastrointestinal system, is more than the body's primary site of taking in and absorbing nutrients. The system of critical digestive organs also acts as a type of switchboard or communication center to and from the brain. So it communicates with the brain and functions as one of the body's front lines in the fight against disease. Our gut plays a major role not only in the gut health, but in the health and well-being of the entire body. And in addition, both the brain and gut play key roles in our stress levels and our mood or state of mind. The gut may inform the brain of a stressor, and the brain will do the same for the gut. Not only is the gut filled with nerve cells that receive and provide information to the brain, but the gut also produces more than 90% of the body's serotonin, a hormone that helps regulate our mood and emotions. And as we can imagine, stress can sometimes result in adverse effects on the gut tract and the whole body. It can cause chronic nausea or bloating and can be a trigger for disease and symptoms in people who have irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel syndrome, and other gut conditions. So that's how important food is. And number two reason, it's essential for economy. And if you look, as a matter of fact, food systems are essential to life and currently account for around 12% of the global GDP and over 40% of all jobs. That's a really significant factor to look at when we consider the perspective of economy. And this is based on the World Economic Forum, the date in 2022. Okay, so now let's look at the people's habits, or consumers' habits, if you like. We're all consumers, aren't we? So one of the key areas that stands out when you talk about food is how much of the ultra-processed foods do we consume. If you wanted to check out the exact definition of ultra-processed foods, you can check out online, and here are links available. But actually, this is like the most processed foods, right? So there are like 4 different categories, from most natural to least natural and most processed foods. So that's the category I'm talking about, the ultra-processed foods. They make up more than half of all total dietary energy consumed in high-income countries such as US, Canada, and the UK, and between 1/5 and 1/3 of total dietary energy in middle-income countries such as Brazil, Mexico, and Chile. And this is based on the paper published in 2019, so you can imagine this data will be collected like a couple of years ago. So basically, you're looking something like 7 years old news, if you like. And this number, as you may guess, can only be higher probably today. The average growth in sales of these products amounts to about 1% per year in high-income countries and up to 10% per year in middle-income countries. Based on Soil Association in the UK, ultra-processed foods impact on health. They say that actually ultra-processed foods make up 65% of our children's diets and over 50% of our shopping baskets. These foods have serious health implications, especially when consumed at the volume they are in the UK. And there is a lot of evidence to suggest that they may cause heart, kidney, liver disease, obesity, cancer, depression, and other things. So as you can see, not just physical disease, but also mental disease. And also, ultra-processed foods have high carbon cost, drive biodiversity loss, and typically rely on intensive farming processes. If you go and follow this website, you can read a little bit more about it if you wish to. Speaking of the outcomes of the ultra-processed foods, based on the Association, they also say that there is a clear link between the national availability of ultra-processed foods and chronic diseases. They say that these foods are not just commonly high in salt, fat, and sugar, but they're very frequently less satiating than unprocessed foods, causing us to overeat. And it has two implications. They are nutritionally less beneficial to consume, and at the same time they're hyper palatable, which means they're tasty. They're triggering mechanisms that cause us to eat more of them. And what happens then when we eat more of them? We put on more calories and put on more weight as a result. What they say is that the consumption of ultra-processed foods is clearly rising worldwide and is particularly dominant in the UK. Now, if you look at the impact of eating ultra-processed foods around the world, in the UK, you will see, based on World Health Organization, worldwide obesity has nearly tripled since 1975. And if you look at the children's statistic, you will see that among children, this number has increased around 11 times. I'm not sure I have it on the slide, but it's based on their website information. And now if you look at the Health Survey for England 2019, the latest data that is available, you will see that around 3/4 of people aged 45-75 in England are overweight or obese. So you can see in the diagram here that people report normal weight in the green category. So people are more likely to report normal weight among 16 and 24. And also from 25, onwards, you will see that there are less and less people. So basically, overall, you have 28% of adults are obese and a further 36% are overweight. So in total, 64% of the overall UK's population would be either obese or overweight. If you look at this specific figure among children in the US, I have the data here, and the change between 1963 and 2018, which is a large period of time, 55 years, I count. So you can see they split down into 3 areas: 2 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 19. And you can see among 2 to 5, this number has increased from something like just below 4% to more than 13%, so over 3 times. And if you look among 6 to 11, this number has changed from around 4 to 20, so 5 times, and 12 to 19 would also be similar figure observed. So you can see clear implications for people's health. Now, the question is, what are the implications for marketeers? Why should we study this? Why should we need to know that? Well, talking of implications for marketeers, I would consider perhaps 2 larger implications. On one hand, promotion of ultra-processed foods. So it kind of makes it easier to promote ultra-processed foods, perhaps to set up restaurants and all of that, because we understand that that's what's happening. And you can look at the root causes and think about maybe we're time-starved societies, maybe we're focusing more on work, but nonetheless, the idea is that the whole environment is more conducive to promote ultra-processed foods. On the other hand, there may be various health implications. So at the same time, it promotes various health services to help deal with the consequences of eating too much of the processed foods. And there are all sorts of different clinics that help with obesity weight management. There are drugs or pills to take that help with that. There is the whole industry of fitness to help with that. There are organic shops that offer like more natural foods and stuff to help with this and so forth. So you might think, well, wouldn't we love to say that everyone wins in this situation? Well, economy, yes, will win, but people's health, not necessarily. Anyway, as marketers, we should understand how people behave, what has changed, and how they are more likely to behave in the future. I'm not considering ethical issues just yet. We will talk about it later. So it's up to you what you make of this, but I want to show you the bigger trends in how people behave and what it means for marketing. Now, if you look at the other factor that is important in food, would be the diets, right? Diets and nutrition, for example, in the UK as of 2023. So you can see that there is a growing interest in reducing meat consumption among consumers in the UK. This trend has turned meat eaters into flexitarians, which are taking 14% of the total market, vegetarians 7%, or even vegans 4%. These choices are so popular that only 59% of consumers in the UK describe the diet as not following any nutritional rules. Sorry, 52%. While many other people have reduced their meat consumption in one form or the other. Approximately 4% identify themselves as vegan, and this number actually has grown over the years. So for example, if you compare from 2014 to 15, this number has increased 4 times just in that period. 4 years, 4 times, or 400%. Those following a vegan diet do not consume any animal-derived food products or ingredients. The idea of eating no meat is much more widespread among younger consumers, as we can observe through stats, than other older generations. So meat-free food consumption will thus become even more important in the British market in years to come. And the UK market for meat substitutes is already worth more than 10 billion euros, making it the largest in Europe. And if you look, here I show the reasons for what reason you're currently vegan. So you can see, I think the way the animals are treated, are farmed and killed is cruel. I don't want to consume animal products, environmental reasons. So you can see it's more like to do with how animals are being treated and also environmental issues rather than like health or anything else. So these are the key issues that stand out. And if you look at the stats in terms of share of adults that plan to not eat meat in the Great Britain in 2003 by generation, so Generation Z, the youngest populations, 47%, which is nearly a half, plan not to eat meat. So these are the, again, this has serious implications for us as marketeers. Some, looking at the trends, decide to set up their own vegan restaurants because there is a high demand for that. Why having a restaurant where you can cater for all if you can cater for that specific demographic, if it's large enough? And in general, understanding more about the people, what do they want, and try deliver this to them. Here you can look at another trend, organic food consumption. So worldwide sales of organic food between 1999 and 2021, which is 22 years, you can see they increased by nearly 10 times. So there is a clear demand going in this direction. That helps explain why there are so many shops that are popping up like daisies, all these organic shops online, weekly delivery of fruit and vegetable boxes, and so on. And if you compare that with the United States, the period 2005 to 2022, you can see that this number has increased around 5 times. And if you compare this number in the UK, you will see this number has also increased around 5 times or a little bit more. You can also look at the per capita spending on organic food in selected countries in Europe, and you will see Switzerland, Denmark, Luxembourg will be among the top spenders, and usually you would find that overall organic food consumption is largest in those countries. I think Denmark stands out as number one based on the stats I looked up a couple of years ago, where the overall organic food consumption was around 12 to 13%, whereas in UK this figure was only 1%. Anyway, when you look per capita spending, it's kind of like a great way to show, because then consumers not just tell you how they feel, but actually they back it up with the money they spend into those particular areas. So, different countries are on different levels, but here you can see the spending habits on organic food. And now we looked at the different stats in the food industry and what is happening there. And this was a very practical way to look at this rather than theory-based, but we're looking at the big trends. So you may ask a question, so what? So in summary, deep understanding of consumer behavior will help understand the shopping behavior, okay? So always try and consider the bigger picture. Not just like specifically very much related to marketing, but overall level. How do consumers behave? What are their attitudes? Why do they do things in a particular way, and so forth? And this helps not just with consumer behavior, it helps with like segmentation, for example, because you segment the market. You can target particular demographics by understanding how large this market is, how profitable, how sustainable, how much growth there is in the future, and so forth. So it's always important to have like deep insights into how people feel, think, and how they live. Thanks a lot. If you like the content, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.